Welcome to Solving the People Puzzle, where I, Franco de Vet, your host, bring you incredible guests that speak about everything of the world of work and the humans and the people in the world of work. I am so excited. In fact, I am inspired by Thembi Manyike. She is at Santam, and we are going to be discussing talent acquisition, the trends, where it's going as an industry, what is required to be a successful talent acquisition specialist, and where she sees the TA space evolving into. Let's dive straight in. This is Solving the People Puzzle, where we discuss all things talent acquisition and human resource management. So excited to have in office in the studio with me, Thembi Manyike. Did I pronounce that correctly, Thembi?
Perfect.
Welcome so much to Solving the People Puzzle. It's amazing to have you here. How you been?
I've been great, Francois. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a long time coming.
We have been speaking about this. I'm so glad the diary finally allowed it. Thembi, before we jump in, I always give my guests the opportunity to intro yourself, share a bit about you, your career, where you're at now.
So, Thembi Manyike, definitely a talent management professional. I would say a lover of people, right? But I currently have a problem with people. I kept saying to the team, I want to work in a morgue because then I don't have to deal with people who live.
We've got AFBOP right next to us.
That's a talent management strategy.
Go and intro you there.
That is a talent management strategy, but actually I'm very passionate about working with people. My roles have been filled with trying to help people reach their top in terms of where they can go, where their career can take them. I deal with anything from graduates to board level. So passionate recruiter. As I've grown, I've stuck to being a recruiter. So I love going to market, finding out what's happening, courting people. I'm a professional courting expert, right? I've got the gift of the gab.
Woo, winning others over.
Totally.
Yes.
And I've developed strong teams. Right now, the team that I work with is phenomenal at Santam. Prior to Santam, I worked for the Auditor General. Amazing, amazing institution. I always say to work at the Auditor General, you have to be passionate about this country. Working at the Auditor General for me is a calling more than just a job.
Yes.
Because if you look at the work that the Auditor General does, is to fix our country. So our role in talent acquisition was to find the people who are willing to fix the country. And then at Santam...
That is a calling.
That is definitely a calling.
Sure.
That is definitely a calling. Then at Santam, we are in the business of helping people stay sane, protecting what matters to them. And in our roles, again, in talent acquisitions, to find people who are passionate enough to make sure that people feel secure wherever they are.
Yeah.
So in general, I'm in the business of loving people and taking care of people.
You know what I love about that? It reminds me of when you meet someone who's a teacher and they say it's not a profession, it's a calling. I haven't often heard people in talent acquisition call it a calling. More often than not, it's admin, it's boring, it's a grudge, it's frustrating. But I genuinely sense authentic passion around talent acquisition from you.
It is authentic. And I always say this, talent acquisition sometimes seems like a thankless job. But if you were to reflect back on your life, so if I go back to my days at BMW, my days at ApeCon, and I look at the people, I see them on LinkedIn now, and they're doing amazing stuff. And that odd message, once a year, somebody saying to you, Thembi, I'm where I am because you opened the door for me. Sure. I'm where I am because you said yes to me. Yeah. That makes it something that is all worthwhile. If you're sitting in there and you're frustrated about the admin, think about the end goal. That's what I always say to the team. My team knows I am very passionate about my administrators. There is nothing I cannot ask for, and I gift them because I'm like, you're the people I need to retain, right? Because they're the people that actually drive the end game for us. We're just there to make sure that things happen, to talk to business. But if they don't do our references and contact the referee, they don't do our background checks, if they don't do some of the research work that I need done, I'm not going to be able to move, and I can't be everything at the same time. So as much as it is admin-y, at the end of the day, when you think about what you're doing for people, you are literally changing people's lives. Yeah. My kids used to ask me, they're much older now, and they used to ask me, what do you do? And I said to them, I'm in the profession of changing people's lives because I help them get a job so that they can pay for school fees.
Wow.
They can feed their families, etc. And if that's not meaningful, I don't know then what is.
You know, Thembi, Whamley, people often ask me, okay, Fran, so you want to help the world hire better people fast, but what's the heart behind it? And then I go, the country we're in now is this incredible opportunity because of our unemployment to make that difference, to change the lives, to impact people. Yeah, so I completely agree with you, and we're sharing a similar sentiment around the opportunity and the real impact that it can have when done. And You're so right. Even people who've worked here, who are not working here now anymore, will often message me or LinkedIn me, or it was my birthday recently, and they'll say, Fran, thank you for this or that. And I go, oh, it might have not worked out now, but there was a connection and an impact and a relationship and a touch point that has got longevity around it. That's beautiful. Thembi, so, obviously over this career of yours and the many logos that you briefly mentioned now, you've probably seen it all in terms of talent acquisition. And I specifically today want to hear from you. What is your take on how talent acquisition has evolved, and where do you see it now? And then maybe a third part that we'll get to is, where do you think it's heading? So how did it evolve? Where is it at now? What's Santam doing? And then into the future. Let's maybe unpack those three.
So I remember when I started in talent acquisition, at the time it was recruitment, right? That's all it was. And it goes back to what you were saying. It was very administrative. You just go into a system, you find CVs, you put them through a process, etc. Now it is a strategic partner to business, to solution for them. There's no way you'll meet as a business your ambitious targets without the help of talent acquisition, because they are in the market to make sure that they find the right people for you. I keep saying to my team that the way talent acquisition has evolved is that you no longer need a basic HR professional. You need a salesperson, you need a marketing guru. Sure. You need somebody who can showcase every element of the business. So I say to the team, you can go to the market and you can find the person. So if I find Francois Yaku, and I know that I'm looking for somebody for our IT business, and they're saying that they're an UX designer or whatever, they're technically strong. We know that. They'll apply, right?
They tick that box.
Yes, they tick that box.
Yeah.
But for me to sell the organization, to sell the line manager, to sell the value proposition in the market, in the industry, is a much more difficult call. Yeah. To shortlist is easy. To shortlist against a culture, against making sure that the dynamics of the team are going to be right. So as much as we don't have access immediately when we're recruiting to things like Enneagrams, but you need to be able to speak to that person. You need to know your line manager so well that in a conversation I can say, Francois is not going to work out with this particular line manager. However, let's look at Namhla. Namhla, you and Namhla can fit because she's this type of personality, you that type, and she's looking for the same person.
Did you know Whamly recently launched fully integrated psychometric assessments in your Whamly platform? Personality, cognitive ability, learning agility, team roles, and what motivates the individual in the workspace. So if you want to know more, head over to whamly.io or reach out to any of our friendly account managers to learn more about our fully integrated assessments.
So now when you're looking for recruitment specialists or talent acquisition specialists, you're looking for people who are solid and understand the market, people who are able to sell and market the organization, but also people who are adaptable and flexible. I see my recruiters and a lot of the talent acquisition people, in fact, not just in Santam, across the board, they're on social media. They're doing videos, they're doing TikToks, they're putting themselves out there, right? And it wasn't something that we were used to do because we were never the face of the organization.
Yes.
Now we are the
personal
face of the
brands.
Listen, these people have got it right. They are every day exercising their ability to showcase their personal brand. And as talent acquisition experts, our personal brand is what, and I always say this, when I look at the talent acquisition specialist, their personal brand has to be solid enough so that they can showcase the employer brand, because we are the personality of the employer brand. The marketing team can come through and be the brand experts and they can tell you about the palettes and things like that. But from a personality perspective and being attractive, the talent acquisition specialists are those people. And that's how it has evolved. There is no way you can go to market without understanding your business. All line managers want to know is, do you have my best interest at heart?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm looking for? Again, technically, Mr. Line Manager, listen, you know this. You've been in this industry for a long time. Anybody can give you a title of a role. You can tell them what that job is about, right? But for it to now evolve into something that is valuable for the line manager, you need to invest all of yourself in the business. You find talent acquisition specialists no longer sit in little hubs. They sit in business because business wants to know that you've got my best interest at heart. You understand me. You understand where I'm going. Talent acquisition specialists are no longer people where you to send an email and say, I'm looking for this. They sit in strat sessions with you. They plan. They do the workforce planning with you. They assist you so that you can foresee the future. You can review what has happened, and in hindsight, how can we do better with our people promise going forward? So where I also see it going now is that it's...
Before you go there.
Yes.
Before you go there, there are so many golden nuggets that I just want us to double click on and unpack. So here's what I'm hearing you say. Firstly, without me directly asking it, you described, in my opinion, the ideal persona of the talent acquisition specialist. Number one, a true business partner, someone that is in the firing line with the line manager, understands their business, understands their pain points, understands their challenges, who deeply cares about the brand of the employer, the organization that they're working for, but as well as the ability to sell the candidate to the line manager and sell the line manager and the organization culture back to the candidate. So sales, marketing, branding, we spoke about personal influence, influencers, social media. I go and I look at all of this and I think, I wonder, do young individuals who are unsure what to study know that this is the world of talent acquisition, and are they drawn to it if they only knew? Because I'm listening to this going, this sounds like you're selling it to me. This sounds incredibly exciting to do. I guess the question then becomes, do I know about it? Are the opportunities there? And are organizations buying into what you're saying now, doing it? Or are they still maybe stuck in the past where it's seen as shared services, admin, going to send you the mail, yell at you when my role doesn't get filled. This poor person doesn't have the resources or the ability or the know-how to go and execute on what we're describing now, right?
Yeah. So just like anything, you have to prove yourself, right? You have to go there and show them that you are the subject matter expert. You have to prove your value. And unfortunately, unlike the sales team, we don't have that thing to say, here's how much I've made. But you can show that from a human capital perspective to say, the money that you've made is because of the human capital that I invested in you.
Yes.
So you need to show true value for what we do. The fact that we don't talk about this job as much as we do, or this calling as much, is on us, right?
Yes.
We should. It's on us.
Yes.
We did something simple last year. Went to a career fair, and there was a young gentleman. It was a law career fair. There was a young gentleman there, and I was talking to him about the grad programs and what we do at Santam, etc., etc. Believe it or not, he's a member of my talent acquisition team with an
law
LLB.
student.
With an LLB. He's a member of my talent acquisition team. He loves it. But what's great for him as well is that he recruits for the legal department.
There we go.
He sits with the company secretary. He sits with our risk and compliance team. He's exposed. And then he does your general call center, because you need to understand insurance, right? You need to understand what we do. You need to understand how to sell insurance. Because ultimately, whatever we do, as long as you're sitting in an insurance company, your duty is to sell insurance.
Correct.
But he's being exposed to all these things. And I had a talent conversation with him, and I was like, I see you going to the CCMA. I see you spending time with the company secretary. What is your thinking about your career? And he said, I want to spend more time in this space.
Wow.
Because this is where I actually am getting the opportunity to play.
Yes.
And that is true.
Yes.
You get given many toys.
Yes.
You get to choose which ones work for you, which ones don't work for you, which ones now you're going to focus on. So for example, I've all my life been given many toys as a talent acquisition expert, but I've chosen that this particular puzzle, which is employer branding, is my niche. It's what I'm passionate about. People always joke and say, we see you a lot in the yellow and wearing yellow. And I said, but that's now my DNA.
Yes.
And if I don't like the color yellow, then I'm in the wrong company. If I don't like how this yellow is packaged, because ultimately, when you come to Santam, Francois, I'm going to send you, or I'm going to serve you yellow juice.
Yes.
You can then decide whether you want it in a glass, in a bottle, in a bowl.
Yeah.
But you're going to get yellow juice.
Yes.
If you don't like the taste of it, you can retract and go, right? And you'll see me showcasing my yellow. And when I'm wearing it, I wear it with so much passion. When I'm at a career fest and when I'm at an event and I see somebody from our team and I say, where's your yellow? Because that should always remind you of why we are here, of who we are as an organization, and to step up from an employer branding perspective. So where I get the opportunity, whether I'm at UCT or whatever, I always showcase not just the brand, but the work that we do as talent acquisition. And I share it to people who say, I have the blessing of finding out about every single department in this organization. I can tell you what our CEO does because I wrote the job spec.
Yes.
I can tell you what the CFO does because I wrote the job spec.
Yes.
Where else will you get that opportunity?
Yeah. Incredible exposure.
It's only in talent acquisition where you can get that type of exposure.
And I guess maybe this is a good segue then into the toys that you are talking about, because I'm going to assume you're speaking about tools and technology, right? And the ability to engage and leverage the tech that's out there. We are bombarded at the moment with AI and so much technology available at our disposal. What is your opinion around fit for purpose tech, and how do you view tech as part of the tools in your tool, or the toys in your toy box?
Toolbox.
Your toolbox at the moment.
It's senseless not to leverage off AI and data. Currently, we on a big data drive. We actually have a data academy now because everything we do is centered around data. Utilizing AI, let's talk about Whamly, for example. One of the first things I asked your team was, can I get insights? Will you be able to show me who tapped into this? How did they do? Give me demographics so that I can go back to business and say, you wanted to know when we started the process, because this is one of the challenges. You get to the end of the process, somebody will ask you, so how many people applied?
Yeah.
How many people were shortlisted for round one? How many people? It's
Where did
very
they drop off?
And why,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult if you don't have an intelligent system.
Yes.
So in bringing in things like Whamly, we were able, and I love the fact that when we initially spoke about Whamly, it was almost like, business is like, there comes human capital again with another thing.
Another toy.
Another toy.
Yeah.
Oh, who's paying for this? Blah. And then you and your team came and spoke about it. And literally they were like, how have you been living without it?
Sure.
Why do we have to take so long to bring something like this that makes such an impact? And just last week, I asked my team to say, guys, I haven't been in touch with the Whamly process, but can I get the data? Unfortunately, they said, George sent it just yesterday, And you then take that and you guys structure it so well that I don't need to review it. And you take that to Exco and you take that to Manco and you say, this is what's happening. This is how it's working. You know this. We started with a certain number of licenses. In a few weeks' time, everybody was like, but we want in as well, right? We just spoke about it to say one of our businesses is using it end to end. And I'm saying, but why don't they tell us? Because then we didn't need the proof of concept. We can just go in. And now I'm saying we want it. And I'm going to bring it into the broader scheme of things in terms of Santam, because right now we were using it only for broker solutions, which is the big part of the business. But there's client solutions, which is the one that interacts directly with the customers, but has got very specialized roles. Our IT department wants to use it. So the little that they've seen and they've heard about it, everybody now wants in, which makes it easier because then I don't have to pay. They just, come in and say, I want, and like, give me the money.
Yeah.
But it's critical that we have it. We have a lot of people as we sit in the companies who try and sell us stuff, who try and tell us that they compete with you guys, for example, but they're not able to show us the value, right? They're not able to show us a complete turnkey approach, which is very, very important. I don't want to feel like I am doing an administrative intensive job. I want to be able to say, this is the role I'm running with. I need 600 people in this particular role in the next couple of months. Whamly does it. Next thing I look, there's 600 ready, fit for purpose candidates who are willing to start, and I just have to sort out orientation.
Yeah.
From a data perspective, we cannot make decisions without the data.
Yeah.
We cannot make decisions without the information that is brought to us, because without the insights, some of these critical decisions around growth, for example, our growth strategy, we cannot make those decisions without that. Right now, because of the work that Whamly is doing, we're now deciding that we need a UK office just to support the work that we're doing here. That is a great opportunity for South Africans
Amazing.
to get exposure. And it was just one simple thing, bringing in an intelligence system, plug and play, to assist us in making the talent acquisition process a great experience.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Thembi, do you think the South African talent acquisition landscape is dealing well with all the technology advances that are in play at the moment? Let me just qualify my question. I often engage with HR departments and teams who are overwhelmed.
I was going to use that same word.
By the tech in front of us now and at our disposal. And I definitely sense a want from business leaders like yourself to say, guys, we can't do without. Whether it's Whamly, whether it's ChatGPT, whatever the system, the tech that is out there, I'm hoping that HR is keeping up from a competence perspective. Do you think we are?
We are. I think firstly, you're right. We are overwhelmed. I think there's a lot that is coming through from everywhere, right? Yeah. One thing that I can always advise my colleagues in the TA and employer branding space is probably try and work with people who are local, because you guys understand. A lot of the international brands, when you start talking about demographics, for example, to say, when you give me data, when you give me insight, is it going to show EE, for example?
Yeah.
They don't understand that, right? So they don't understand the language. And if they don't understand the language that you speak, how they're going to input it into the system that you want to utilize.
Yes.
We are inundated with proposals all the time. And I think you need to step back. You need to firstly know what you need from a business perspective. So the needs analysis needs to be clear.
Very good.
Get information, get enough information. Remove the fluff, guys. And as soon as you see a dollar sign, maybe just ignore. And it's important. I genuinely do believe that we need to focus on our South African brands who are doing well. it's easy for us to get references. You know how it is. The first time you guys approached us, they said, who's using you?
Yeah.
You told me. I went straight to them.
Yeah.
They said, good to go. It's an entity that I trust. They are a sister company. I said, okay, we're good to go. The same happens when you go to business and they say, who's using them? Do you have a reference? Go with that.
Yeah.
We need to remove all the fluff. You need to know what your business actually needs. And that requires you to do an end-to-end process understanding so that you know what is on offer, right? And when you look at the proposal, don't look at it in terms of what they're offering you. Look at it from what you need and what they're saying that it can supplement. So as they're looking at your proposal, they're saying, okay, tick, we can do that for you. We can do that for you. We can do that for you. Instead of you saying, what do you have on offer? Okay, let me go back and check. Because you will always be doing that. You'll be looking at every single proposal. And most importantly, tap into the communities. Tap into our communities, guys. Our people speak. Every time you need something from a human capital community, people will tell you, this is what I've used, it has not, and they've been open and honest about
100%.
it. This is what I've used, it has not worked, or it has worked, or I know so-and-so who used it, maybe get a reference from them. And that's how we have worked. I don't, when I see the proposals, I always say, I'm sorry, not interested. And then I can go back to the community and say, guys, I'm looking for something that does this. Remember, it's my need.
Yes.
I have a need.
This is my
my
problem.
need. This is my problem. Who do you know who can fix it? And then they give the referrals instead of getting all of these things. And I think we need to be intentional as well about the AI utilization and understanding of the data work. There's no way, again, you'll be a trusted partner if you do not know how to take the data and give it back and give it with insights to the business. That's how you show your value as a talent acquisition person. When you show the trends, what is happening from a holistic trend perspective in the industry, what is happening from a system perspective. This is what's happening in our process. And you can look at that comparison. I think the one thing, though, is that we need to focus on what is critical in terms of our industry needs as well. I know I sit in insurance and it's moving at such a fast pace. I need a better word for this because I can't say we are regurgitating candidates. But, you come to Santam for 1 month as an underwriter.
Maybe.
Recycling, yes. Because we've got, for example, underwriting. Underwriting is a scarce skill, right? In the reinsurance space. You get actuaries who come to us. They come from OM. We pay them an extra 100K. 6 months, they'll leave us. They'll go to RMA for another 100K. And then in a year's time, they're going to come back to us. If we're not analyzing that using data, we won't be able to then solution. There's some things that we also need to solution as a community and not as individuals. And that's why your community that you have is very important. And you see the conversations that happen there. We could sit in that community and make decisions that could impact our businesses long term. So I think it is important for us to look at the AI. And I think we should also be clear that with the introduction of AI, it's not going to take away our duty as talent acquisition experts. It is an option to augment.
Yes, love that.
You cannot be everything to everybody at the same time. But AI comes into solution. Like I'm saying to you, I may not be able to deliver the type of report that Wembley can deliver on, but I can present it to business in a way that Wembley can't.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. It's a combination. It's a relationship. Yeah. Thembi, what do you think is the future or changes that's going to happen in talent acquisition? Do you think we've kind of reached the pinnacle, or will it continue to evolve? Both from a human perspective, maybe from a process perspective, maybe from a tech perspective. Do you think we'll get to a space where technology is that clever that it will find you your next recruit without you knowing you need it, because it analyzed the next person to turn over without you knowing it, and then wooing that person to be ready without you knowing it?
So with AI, we all know what you put in is what you get out in terms of algorithms. We've all seen the case study around a certain institution that the algorithms picked up and said there's a certain caliber of candidate who's usually successful, and then it discriminated against everybody else. It needed a talent acquisition hand, physical hand, to fix that issue. So there will be a lot more that is done from a technology perspective. But then what does that do for us? It gives us more time to spend time with business.
Yes.
Right? That's how we're going to give back. So where AI, where technology is going to be supporting us, we can then contribute to business on different things. We can go back to business and saying, this is the trend that we're picking up. Most recently, my team and I did work around why we getting so many declines from an offer perspective. It's not something you're going to get on AI. So there's basic things like we changed our medical aid, right? That requires a conversation. What is it that we changed in our medical aid that is not attractive to you anymore.
that put people off.
Yes. So this person went through the entire process, utilizing the system, but then got to a point where it needed human intervention. Even in business, where, again, I gave the example around, we've got the amazing UX expert, but we don't know which business they fit into. It requires a personal touch because I know you. I've had a conversation with you as a line manager, so it needs me. But because I didn't spend too much time trying to screen and filter through all the clutter, I'm able to have that conversation with you. So by the time the intelligence comes through from the system, I'm able to then say, I've got these 3 candidates, but let me tell you a bit more about them. I think the other thing that we probably lose out on if you rely too much on technology is having the conversations with our candidates, right? You know the type of caliber of candidates that just want to go through the system, and then you know those that actually want the interface and the communication.
They want that,
and get,
that
yes,
personal touch.
Yes. I mean, I with the senior roles, so I recruit for all the executive roles in our organization. I'll put out an advert. And the first thing somebody will do is send me a message, hi, can we chat?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that anywhere else. And I can't refer them back to technology.
No.
I need to say to them, no problem.
They're talking to a human as a human.
They want me as a human. And when I go back to business, because now the technology is going to give me the short list, but I need to speak to this list and say, I know this one personally. Yeah. This is not going to work. This will work. From a people perspective, this is what you need. So there is going to be an element of taking over a lot of the administrative element. There is a lot of botting that's going to happen in our processes, but it will not remove the human element that is required. Yes. The conversations with our people, the interviews, again, those are going to be botted, right? But having the actual interactions with people and making sure that, are you okay? The check-ins, the post-interview check-ins, and making sure that when you position these candidates to the executive or to the leaders, they actually have a good view of who they're bringing on board. And it's not just a system-generated or a number, somebody who's just applicant number 125. It is actually a person that you're referring to, and they can see them fitting into their organization.
As part of the trends, one of the other trends is empathy is making its way back into HR. Now, if you unpack the trend, it's about exactly what you're saying. We are bombarded and overwhelmed by the tech, but we should not lose the ability or the skill to have the empathy that there is a human on the other side that might want to speak to you.
I think it's one of the things that we take for granted. It's one of those soft skills that HR should actually leverage off from, because that's human capital experts. That's where the empathy comes from. When COVID happened, we were everything, right? Everybody called on us. And one of the things that I've stuck with and I've seen in other interviews, I actually learned it from another organization when I listened in on an interview. From COVID times, before they start an interview, after the entire process has happened, the first thing they ask is, are you okay?
Wow.
Before we get into it, before we do the tell me about yourself, whatever, are you okay?
Sure.
And that changes the tone of the interview entirely.
Sure.
You'll see even the line manager, because I watched this interview, you'll see even the line manager's like, but why are we asking that? And in the one candidate was like, I was so nervous about this interview that I almost got hit by a car, blah, blah. So already now you are removing some of the barriers that may interfere with the interview.
Sure, that's
right.
powerful.
Because you asked just the question, you showed empathy and you said, are you okay?
I love that. Thembi, I want to land the plane. There's someone listening now, I can guarantee you, going, geez, I don't have this passion for talent acquisition yet, but I want it. What practical advice could you give to that audience member, that listener, that YouTuber going, I'm so inspired by Thembi now. Can I do something?
Firstly, speak to us. Speak to us. Get a talent acquisition person who's passionate about what they do. Like I said, it is a calling. But also, it only manifests itself if you also feel a sense of belonging to the company that you're working for, right? If you don't feel like what you're doing is of value to that company, how are you going to showcase yourself in an authentic, passionate way? Yeah. If you're not passionate about your organization, you're not going to be passionate about the job you're doing for this organization. So it's not going to come out. But speak to people who are truly passionate about talent acquisition. Engage in conversations about this, but read as well.
Yes.
Please read. Yes. People take for granted how much a small article, some of the stuff that you guys do, especially when we went into Top Employer, it was short sessions, but the amount of stuff that you got from there that you can apply into your space of working, things that you can learn. And I think another thing is, if at all possible, get a coach. from a talent acquisition perspective. Maybe not necessarily a mentor. A mentor you can get anywhere, they can do whatever, but get a talent acquisition coach, because that is a person who's going to show you how they did it so that you can maybe apply some of those principles. They can also guide you from a direction perspective to say that, guys, this is how I got here. This is how I'm changing the landscape. And another thing and this is what works for me, immerse yourself in the brand that you work for. Yeah. Find the good things. You won't be able to find pleasure in everything in the organization. Choose those 2 or 3 things that make you happy about walking into that organization. And once you find those 2 or 3 things, for example, for me, I like to see us win.
Yeah.
I love seeing us winning. I love it when our CEO can come on and talk about the numbers. And I know that when he speaks about those numbers, that translates into a bonus, which means that we've changed somebody's life.
Yes.
When I immerse myself in the brand, when I speak about my brand, you'd say every time I talk about Santam, I've had a Red Bull, but it is actually just the yellow that I've just become so passionate about, right? I get to know my business. I spend time with my business. I spend a lot of time speaking to our leaders. And when you speak to people, especially, we make a joke about people who've been in organizations for a long time. We have learned that from a culture perspective, you need to build a culture from the bottom up. So you need to speak to the people on the ground. Those people will share with you some passionate stories about why they joined this organization and why they've stayed. Sure. And then when you experience that in a conversation, you find it very difficult to leave, because you're like, oh my gosh, is this who I work for?
Yeah.
Honestly and truly. And then you listen to the stories about the impact you're making in the country, like, is this who I work for? You know, we are showing up in institutions like schools for children with disabilities. We're making sure that they've got access. You know, why wouldn't I be passionate about that? We've got business cards that are Braille written. And do you know what our Braille says? It's got all our information. And on the Braille, when you touch it, it says, come as you are.
Sure.
Our organization says, we receive you for everything that you are. Come as you are. We'll find space for you. How I joined Santam, this is another thing that makes me passionate. I joined Santam, I called the call center before the interview. The person picked up the phone. They thought I was going to ask for a policy or whatever. I said, hi, how are you? How long have you been at Santam? 8 years. Now, firstly, obviously, they start with things like, this call is recorded, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you've been there for 8 years? Yes. Why have you been there for so long? Because they accept me for who I am.
Jeez.
I was like, thank you.
A better testimonial.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and summarize. Read, speak up, engage with the content, find yourself a talent acquisition mentor, a coach, engage in the communities, follow the social media, read up on the articles, attend the conferences. But most importantly, I heard, is ask yourself the question, are you passionate, deeply passionate about the brand? Because it's very difficult to me to manufacture that passion from a space that's not authentic, because I'm not in line with the brand.
Sure. Can you imagine trying to do that?
Daily. No, that's not sustainable.
Right?
No.
And it's so difficult to also, and in talent acquisition, that's the other thing. You can't fake liking people.
No.
It will show up eventually. No. If you don't like people, please don't come into talent acquisition, because there's a lot you deal with. Just going into an interview and you're dealing with somebody who's nervous and they're trusting you to have their best interest at heart. At the same time, the line manager is expecting the same thing. Yes. And you need to be passionate to be able to go through that, yes. Right? And to stay for the amount of years that I've stayed, talent acquisition is all I know.
Yeah.
Right? I've had the opportunity, as line managers, of course, you've got an opportunity to do the learning and development, the ER and things like that. But this is where I know I show up as the best version of myself. And it's also because I have a deep passion for people. And I've got a deep passion for seeing people do better with their lives. And if that's not in you, you can't fake it.
You can't
in talent acquisition, there's not fake it till you make it.
No,
you're going to fake it, it's going to show up.
Yes, and you're going to fail.
You're going to fail, and you'll be a disaster.
Yeah.
So, like, watch things like this, these type of podcasts, they really help, because then you can also see the people who are leading and you can tap into their knowledge. And a lot of the time, I've found that when you ask people, it's not often where in human capital somebody said no.
Yeah.
I can't help. Even if they can't help, they'll refer you to somebody,
yes. or help you find an answer.
Or help you find
yes.
an answer.
Yeah.
So people mustn't be scared
yes.
to raise their hand and say, I don't know.
Yes.
Help me.
Yes.
But the passion must be there. You must love the company you work for. And if you don't, I think I've got a few vacancies.
That's the salesperson.
Toss yourself into the yellow brand. But seriously, like speak to somebody. We always know an opportunity and we know where great companies are made and how they are made.
Thank you so much for this incredible insight and wisdom. I really appreciate your time, all the golden nuggets. I know that the audience and the listeners are going to find so much value in this conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the camera. And by the way, while you were speaking, I was like, okay, our next episode is going to solely be on building a brand and an EVP. Okay, so I'll be setting that up for us for the next episode, brand and EVP. Thank you, Thembi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Solving the People Puzzle. If you enjoyed today's episode, can you please go and like, subscribe, and even leave us a 5-star rating? If you have any questions around how to create the ultimate end-to-end hiring solution, head over to whammy.io so that we can help you hire better people faster. Catch you next time.